Hi there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids. I'm a speech therapist, also called a speech language pathologist, and I teach little kids to talk and I teach parents to understand their little kids better. And we are talking about frustration today. And I picked frustration because it is an emotion that children often feel. And if we're being honest, we all feel it sometimes. But the difference is between the way a child experiences frustration and the way an adult experiences frustration is a child doesn't have the perspective that we have, that the frustration is going to go away, and they don't know that someday they're going to be able to do the thing that they're trying to do but can't. So when kids are experiencing frustration, the quality of that feeling is really different from an adult's, because to us it's going to be momentary, perhaps prolonged, but we know that the frustration is going to go away. And our kids, especially our very young kids, they really don't. They are stuck in the present, right? Remember that kids, young kids especially, are really, really tied to the present moment. And so what's happening for them in the present moment is what's happening for them for always. So now, if you can start to reframe, like assume that this frustrated feeling, so put yourself in the mind of your child, that frustrated feeling is never going away. Oh my gosh. Then you can have a little bit of empathy for your little one, right? Then you can have so much more sympathy for the way that they're feeling and how devastating it is for them to feel this feeling, which they don't even know the name of yet. And so the first really, really important thing to do with any feeling, and for our purposes, we're going to talk about like good and bad feelings, but especially for the bad feelings, right? We want to name them, because that which we cannot name must be so awful that we can't talk about it. And that is not where we want to be with our kids. We want to be with talking, with openness, with communication, right? With outward facing interpersonal dynamics. That's our goal, right? Is to help our kids become people who can engage with the world. And how do we do that? Mostly verbally, by talking. And so it's really, really important to name that feeling. And so when you see even your baby, your 6-month-old, who's trying to crawl and can't make it across the room, it's a great time for you to say, oh, you are so frustrated. You're trying to crawl across the room and you just can't yet, but you will someday. Just even that amount of talking about things starts to lay the groundwork for your child being able to self-identify their own feelings and then to work through them. So frustration in particular is one of those feelings that you really want to understand. For your child, it feels permanent and they need to learn that it's not. And then you can help them move through the thing that's frustrating for them in the moment. And so that will either involve a level of assistance or just letting them figure it out, maybe a gentle little nudge to help them figure it out, or maybe just leaving them alone and just making sure that they know that what they're feeling is called frustration. And if they keep doing the thing they're doing, eventually they're going to figure it out. So I'd love to hear what your experiences have been with your child's frustration. And I want to say one more thing about that. If you feel like your child is frustrated the vast majority of the time, or if they're frustrated more often than you feel like they should be, or if they have an extremely intense level of frustration, that is an indicator that they're sort of working harder than the average bear to process the emotions and the things that are going on in their world. And so you want to talk to somebody about that. A speech therapist is a great person to start with. also a social worker or a psychologist. You could do that as well. But a speech therapist, a lot of times with small children, there are underlying communication issues at play. And so part of the reason they're frustrated is because they can't communicate what they intend. And so that can lead to intense feelings of frustration and some resulting behaviors, like throwing yourself on the floor in a tantrum, that can feel really alarming, but that can be dealt with by somebody who's trained in communication. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are. And until next time, take care.